This video will review the second unit of philosophy, and that unit is aesthetics. And this will be very brief, and hopefully it is a reminder of what we've already learned. But I would suggest you use the class Moodle page to go at your own pace, print what you need, add to your notes whatever you need. Please use it as a tool, and considering it's an open note exam, should be a helpful tool. And the items you're going to be assessed on will be a piece of art, piece of music, a photograph, and some performance art. Now, I'm not going to tell you what those are, but if you've mastered the ability to critique using those 8 criterion for aesthetics, it shouldn't be a problem. And then there's going to be specific questions related to aesthetics, such as how various philosophers viewed music, golden ratio, Fibonacci spiral, architectural criterion, intentional fallacy, Wagnerian dilemma, and the Finding Joe documentary. And here was our starting point, the criterion to evaluate aesthetics. And you can plug these into really any type of aesthetic evaluation. Concept. Oftentimes these are adjectives: sublime, beautiful, ridiculous, ugly, shocking. Aesthetic value. Does it have practical value? Is there spiritual value? Is there humor to it? Is there no value at all? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Attitudes. What was the attitude of the artist when he or she made the art? Intentions. Was there an intention of the artist in making the art? Is it even relevant? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Definition of art. How can you define this as art? What makes it a certain kind of art? What is good art? What is bad art? What is absurd art? What is folk art? What have you? Outsider art. And this is a question you have to ask about any piece of aesthetics expression. Now, how do audiences respond to the artwork? How do you respond to the artwork? Is it the way the artist intended? What kind of emotion is attached to the art? Representation. Is there something deeper to the piece? Is it an attempt at accuracy? Is it an attempt of an abstract of the item? Is it simply copying, or is there something deeper? And then the art object. Trying to separate between the score and the performance, the script and the performance. What is the mission? Was it accomplished? How much creativity was given? So we started off with fine art, and you can use those 8 aforementioned areas to these. Now, one of these paintings is considered one of the finest pieces of art in human history. One is a silly painting from the movie Goodfellas, and one is a ridiculous painting that is absurd, and you can look at it and go like, what the heck was he or she thinking? So can you use these 8 and take them through these things? And for the sake of time, I'm going to let you do that on your own. But being able to use these 8 items into any piece of fine art is what I'm going to ask you to do tomorrow. And then we moved on to music. And again, here's the 8 criterion. I'm going to play you a piece of music. Can you take it through these? And we listened to a lot of songs. Some I thought were fantastic. Some I thought were mediocre. Some I thought were horrendous. And you may have thought differently, but be able to use those 8 criterion into music. And you can practice with any painting. Okay, here. You can practice with any song here. But I would like you to be ready to evaluate a song tomorrow. Now, in terms of the last day of music, how the various philosophers used music, Pythagoras, he said it's geometry. The music is in the spacing of the spheres. Essentially, it's a mathematical entity. Plato said music is moral law. It gives soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, charm and gaiety to the life and to everything. This is putting music on a much higher pedestal than simply a mathematical formula. Leibniz said, music is the hidden arithmetical exercise of a mind unconscious that is calculating. So he's tapping into this unconscious need to create. Other philosophers, Hogarth, the minuet is allowed by dancing, masters themselves to be the perfection of all dancing. That music in conjunction with dance is a very high expression a human being can do. Immanuel Kant, even the Song of Birds, which we can bring under no musical rules, seems to have more freedom and therefore more taste than a song of a human being, which is produced in accordance with all the rules of music. For we very much sooner weary of the latter, if it is repeated often and at length. So he's saying true musical expression should be free like the birds, which is interesting because that kind of goes against the personality of Immanuel Kant. Schopenhauer, the inexpressible depth of music, so easy to understand and yet so inexplicable, is due to the fact that it reproduces all the emotions of our innermost being, but entirely without reality and remote from its pain. Music expresses only the quintessence of life and its events, never these themselves. Very profound words. And when I gave a quick survey at the beginning of the music unit, emotion was the word that came out the most. You have more wisdom than you thought. And then we ended with Nietzsche. Without music, life would be a mistake. And I have to agree with that. So music has been a topic of philosophers for a very, very long time, and rightly so. It's a very important aspect of life. And then we moved on to day 17, synopsis of 5 studies of human attraction, and have 3 photographs of a lot of human attraction. I want to see you guess which one has the most attraction. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. But there are 5 studies. Number 1, similarity, liking others who are like us. And I want you to go through this again. It's a breakdown. We tend to like those that validate they're like us, and we have a relatability to it. Friends in the dorm, the power of proximity. Sorry to offend anybody who's dating somebody within the school, but we tend to find people who are close to us versus far away. The bridge study. In a heightened state of stimuli, we tend to find the other person more attractive. Lots to gain. The power of winning you over. Meaning, play a little hard to get. Psychologically, they're going to like you more if they have to win you over. And then what is beautiful is good. If we see beautiful people, like this guy, for instance, we automatically assume he's a good person and that he does the right things. And there's a bias, a heavy human bias toward what is beautiful being good. So I'd like you to revisit those 5 studies. Then we moved on to day 18. The question is, in terms of attraction, how much is mathematical, how much is physiological or psychological or sociological? And this is a tough question. I'd like you to assert your opinion. But there are 2 mathematical items, the golden ratio, here it is, and it applies to all these areas, and the Fibonacci spiral, which applies to a sunflower and to hurricanes and to galaxies. This woman was considered the most perfect golden ratio in England. Is she more beautiful than anybody else? So here's a question. In terms of attractiveness, is it a mathematical equation? Is it partly a mathematical equation? Is it the sociological conventions? Is there a psychological thing? Is it a physiological item with pheromones? You know, you get that chemistry. You get a whiff of somebody and woo, that's it. That's a tough question. I'd like you to answer it. And then day 19, we looked at architecture, and I'm going to give you a piece of very famous historical architecture, and I'm going to ask you to look through it and go, how is it as an art form? If you look at it merely as art, not the practicality or anything, how is it as a piece of art? And number 2, objects. What sort of things did the architect choose that's different from another object, which gives it a quality, which gives it a certain uniqueness? Number 3, architectural properties. The standard trio in architecture is integrity, structural integrity, how strong it is, beauty, and utility. Utility meaning how practical is it to use for the most amount of people. Architectural types. What type of architecture is this? Meaning in other languages. Is there some expression in this architecture that the architect is trying to say? And is there a social or moral benefit to the object? And again, what I'm going to show you tomorrow is very, very famous, and you should be able to break it down easily. But again, any piece of architecture, we use these 6 things. And if you recall, I asked you to pick your favorite type of dwelling and your least favorite type, and just have a little bit of background with that. Day 20 was the intentional fallacy and the Wagnerian dilemma. Now, the intentional fallacy is a false idea that many people believe is true, used in the 20th century in literary criticism to describe the problem inherent in trying to judge a work of art by assuming the intent or purpose of the artist who created. So, in a sense, is it a fallacy? Is it faulty thinking that the intention behind the writing or the painting or what have you has value, or is important, or has bearing onto the art? Now, some agree, some disagree. Now, this Wagnerian dilemma, though, this man to the right You heard his piece of music, Ride of the Valkyries, incredible piece of work. We also listened to a couple other artists, and you said, hey, this is pretty good music. But then you realize despicable people. Wagner was a horrible human being, racist, anti-Semitic, misogynist, a real jerk of the highest order. Does they have bearing onto the music or not? Can good people make bad art? Can bad people make good art? Does it matter? And this is a question I'm going to ask you to answer. And then we ended the aesthetics unit with a Finding Joe movie. And the Finding Joe was a very heavy-duty documentary, but the two items I'm going to ask you to walk away from was the hero's journey, in particular in the yellow ink here, yellow font, initiation, return, separation, and it keeps going and going. And if you recall in class, we scaled back. I said, so 20 years from now, where will you be? A lot of people right now are nearing separation, seniors in high school, and then you're going to be initiated into college or the military or the workforce. You're going to do your thing, and you're going to return to tell the story. My favorite part was I said, hey, pretend I'm an 8th grader starting high school. And you guys gave me wonderful advice, and it just keeps going. It's not linear. It keeps going and going. Then the other piece of Campbell that I really want you to know is follow your bliss and what that means, and the origins of follow your bliss from the Upanishads. And it's not hedonism. It's not fun. It's not happiness, it's bliss. It's this very profound notion. As they said in the movie, if time and money were no object, what would you be doing? Now go do more of that, is bliss. So you can give me a breakdown, a synopsis of the movie. That'll be the last item. And then the sublime versus the beautiful. I'd like you to watch this very brief 2-minute video. And this is the little new material before we get into the review. But in a nutshell, Edmund Burke said that beautiful is small potatoes. Beautiful is quick and easy and, it's nice. Sublime are those deep, overwhelming feelings that just every synapse in your body is just feeling it. It's when you look over a cliff or you see Niagara Falls or you just feel so alive. And the difference between sublime and beautiful, if you can watch this YouTube video and do that, that would be great. And that will end aesthetics, the branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of beauty, art, and taste, with the criterion and appreciation of beauty. And the world is full of beauty, and we will always categorize it, we will always critique it, we will always appreciate it. This is a lifetime pursuit. Of all the 5 areas of philosophy, you can argue this is maybe the most fun, the one we talk about in social situations, the stuff you'll stay up late in the dorms talking about, and so on and so forth. So after we are done with our exam, we will move on to ethics, what is right and wrong, and I'm looking forward to it. And I wish everybody the best of luck on the exam. Thanks for watching.